Well, and no, obviously not. And then the other thing that I think is a huge misnomer that a lot of people have is they say, well, I'll just let the state pay for it. And that's not something that really anybody that has any amount of wealth, Candice, can even go down that road.
No, I think that gives you the least options when we're talking about long-term care, because you may not want to be in a facility that you end up in, you know, when it's paid for by just Medicaid. But now Medicaid actually ends up being the largest payer of long-term care.
Yeah, it is. And because there are so many people that when they get to that stage of life, they are essentially what are called paupers. They just don't have the money. You have to have less than $2,000 of liquid assets to qualify to go on Medicaid. And there's all kinds of things out there that, you know, people say, well, we can do this and we can do that. But all of that equates to losing dignity and independence. But let's go back to the original thing that we talked about. We want you to stay out of the nursing home. Long-term care, or I'm sorry, Medicaid doesn't pay for home health care. It doesn't pay for assisted living. It pays for inpatient, acute, long-term care issues, and that's it. So you've got to think about how that's going to all work. If you want to be maintain that dignity and that independence that you have such a fear of losing, then there has to be a proactive plan to say, okay, this is how I'm actually going to do that.
Let me back up to that. I'm going to try to basically make the state pay for it.
Yes.
You think about that. The quality of care is a big concern about that. But when you think about it, I'm not exactly sure where that mindset comes from. I know it is triggered. The need for long-term care is triggered by an event out of your control, right? But you are still using the services of a business, and your mindset is expecting not to have to pay for it if you want the state to pay for it instead. It is a bill, just like any other bill, that you're going to have to pay for, and you're going to have to go through your assets first before the state is going to pick up the tab, right? So
that's right.
So why not make a plan to not deplete your assets? And of course, a lot of people will fight back with the idea of getting it out of their name. So we might as well go ahead and hit that while we're talking about it.
Well, you can do something that is basically an irrevocable trust. And that's when you put all of your assets in this irrevocable trust that takes it out of your name and literally puts it in the control of another person. Now, that other person may be a family member or whatever, but it literally does take those assets out of your name.
And that takes a lot of trust in someone else to hand over all of your assets and say, you take care of it so that the state will take care of me, you know?
And here's the other problem with that, Scott. You can do that with non-retirement assets, but what is your biggest asset that you have? It's probably your retirement account in more cases than not. So you can't put that into an irrevocable trust. It would create a taxable event. You'd have to pay the taxes on that, and that reduces the amount of money that you've got, and it really does, you know, create this death spiral, if you will, of the money. So you run into all kinds of issues with that. And that is not something that we recommend to people unless there's just no other alternative.